Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. In the city of Ul'dah, the Warrior of Light runs across a guy who claims to have seen an old man from the Far East show up at the arena and offer to fight anyone who thinks they can beat him. Then he proceeded to thoroughly beat each and every person who tried with some seriously impressive swordsmanship. The man claims to be a samurai, and of course the Warrior of Light is eager to see how well she stacks up against him, especially since there's been some mention of a treasure if you can beat him. The only catch is you have to fight him with the same weapon that he uses. Not like that'll stop you. When you walk up, the old man can sense that you're a strong fighter and may be exactly what he's looking for. He introduces himself as Musosai, and he is indeed a samurai from Hingashi. He lets you borrow a katana and a soul crystal so you can absorb the memories of the last samurai who held the stone. That way you'll at least know which end of the sword you're supposed to use on him. With that done, the two of you step into the arena, but before you can duel, a gladiator by the name of Barold, who the old man already beat, comes running into the arena wanting a rematch, this time using his own weapon. No one likes the guy, mainly because he's a sore loser. You can't agree to the rules of a contest, then claim the other guy cheated because you weren't as good as he was. Showing off a little bit, Musosai cuts Barold's blade in half, which makes the idiot run away and let you get back to your duel. You're obviously no match for the man, not fighting with the unfamiliar weapon, but he is impressed with how fast you start to catch on, and he declares you the victor. He lets you know that the treasure he was offering was training in the ways of the samurai, a very valuable gift indeed. Before you can even give your answer, Barold comes back, quite unhappy to hear that he got humiliated and there wasn't even any money involved. Not like he could have won it anyway, something Musosai points out, which is why the man came back with friends this time. Musosai still won't fight him. Instead, he sends his new pupil to do it. After seeing you in action, he's positive that you can take them all with no problems. After you pummel his allies with the announcer narrating the fight, Barold charges Musosai only to get beaten without even making the man draw his sword. He apologizes for making you fight the gladiators, but it did let him know that you would make an incredible student. He'd been searching everywhere for someone worthy of his knowledge, and he couldn't find anyone in his homeland, so he left. They were too traditional there, and it limited them, so he decided to come to Eorzea, a place he mispronounces as Eorzea, which, now that I say it out loud, isn't really that far off. He went straight to the place where the best fighters were supposed to be, and after a while, he got lucky and found you. He just hopes you accept his training, which of course you do. Now that you're officially his student, he explains a few things to you about his homeland. A long time ago, Hingashi went through a bad time called the Age of Blood, where a lot of different groups fought for dominion over the land. That was when people took up the katana and the samurai were born. When the land was unified under one banner and peace finally came to the area, the regular citizens put away their weapons and the remaining samurai took on the task of keeping the peace. Now the samurai hunt down criminals to bring them to justice so the Age of Blood never comes back. They're like the Justice League, only their justice involves poking holes in people with sharp objects. Now that you're on the path to becoming a samurai, Musosai would take you around Eorzea fighting evildoers as a part of your training, so you literally just became the sidekick to a vigilante master of martial arts. Unfortunately, that makes you Robin, but beggars can't be choosers. So the two of you get ready to hunt down some bad guys in Ul'dah when Mobozigo, the Lalafell who had been announcing your fight in the arena, shows up. He managed to make a lot of money off of the fight, and now he wants to follow the two of you around because he believes that there's a chance you'll help him make even more money. But he's not planning on being useless. If you want to hunt bad guys, he has a lot of contacts who can help you track down some villains, which will be useful since Musosai doesn't know Eorzea at all, and the Warrior of Light is practically a mute, so she won't really be able to give any good directions. Momo and Musosai have already worked together. Musosai saved his life from some bandits he'd been trying to recruit to fight in the arena. Then Momo had guided him to Ul'dah, so there are no objections to him coming, so he gets to work on finding some bad guys, while you get more familiar with your new weapon. With Ul'dah being a haven for all things degenerate, it doesn't take long for Musosai to pick a target. There's a moneylender who hunts poor people to scam. He charges crazy rates for his loans, then when people can't pay, he makes them into slaves. And with all of the poor people living in the area, he has plenty of targets. You talk to the people at Stone's Throw who know exactly who the guy is you're looking for, and he's far worse of a person than even Musosai thought. A young woman borrowed some money for her father's medicine, and even though she's paying her bill on time, he keeps increasing what she owes so he can sell her to one of his clients. Lucky for you, and not so lucky for him, the moneylender shows up to take the girl while you're standing there. Of course, you get ready to murder the creep, but Musosai stops you. If you fought right there, you could have made things worse since technically he is conducting semi-legal business. He never forced people to borrow money from him or agree to his terms, so you need to wait for the right time to strike, especially since the man's not working alone. Instead of stabbing him, you follow as he takes the girl. He meets up with some members of the Brass Blades who are apparently taking the woman as payment to let Philip conduct his business without any legal ramifications. Now that is definitely illegal. Seeing how the corrupt guards are a part of this scheme, it's time for you to step in. You take down the guards, leaving only their leader alive, and you tie him and Philip up while Momozigo goes to get some more of the Blades, ones who have been trying to link Philip's money lending to one of their own officers. What you've done is saved them a lot of legwork, so at the end of the day, the girl is happy, and the Brass Blades are happy. Not bad for your first mission as a samurai. Now that you've done some good in Ul'dah, Musosai wants to go somewhere else, so your next stop is Limsa Lominsa, a place that is definitely full of criminals. Honestly, the only city that really isn't is Gridanian. The other city-states have a whole lot of problems. It doesn't take long for Musosai to find a big problem in the city. There's a serial killer in the area who uses a really sharp sword, a lot like the ones you carry, which made the Yellow Jackets bring Muso in for questioning. Since he has a pretty solid alibi, like only just arriving in the city that day for the first time in his life, it doesn't take long for him to be released. Since he and Momo offered to help with the investigation, the guards let them see the bodies, and the victims were definitely killed by a katana. The fact that the murderer is using a samurai's weapon is something that Musosai will not tolerate, so he wants to hunt down the killer, which means it's detective time. After chatting with a few people, you find that the victims have nothing in common except for the fact that they disappeared near the docks, so the killer may just be grabbing whoever passes by his hunting ground at a convenient time, which makes him more dangerous, but easier to catch in a trap, if you use the right bait. And since anyone would be stupid to try to attack anyone as well armed as you and Musosai, the lucky decoy is Momozigo. The plan works. Momo walks along the dock at night, and a Lalafell dressed like a ninja comes at him with a katana. Momo screams, making the other Lalafell run off, but not before Musosai gets to see the sword. He recognizes it. A rich merchant had gone to Kugana and bought a unique katana that he wanted delivered to his ship. It was the same one the killer held, and the merchant was said to be a Lalafell, although Musosai mispronounces that and calls him a Laughabell. Momo immediately thinks of Gegaruju since he's a rich Lalafell who likes exotic things, but while he's weird and a crook, he's definitely not a murderer. Still, he's your only lead, so you go to see him. Of course, he's not the killer, but he has an idea who it could be. There's a Lalafellan merchant named Garumi Boralumi, who even Gegaruju thinks spends too much money. But the guy is obsessed with anything from the Far East, and he's collected a lot of katanas. Recently, Garumi was showing off one of his weapons and talking about how he wanted to see what it was like to stab someone with it. Nobody believed him, but he apparently was serious. He lives on a ship which is docked nearby, but it might not be for long. It's not going to be easy to sneak on a ship, but fortunately Gegaruju has an invitation to go to a banquet on board that he gives to you so you can deal with the psycho. The guy's a rival businessman, so it's not like he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Gegaruju is still a jerk, even if he is sometimes useful. You make it onto the ship without any problem since Momo disguises himself as Gegaruju before using the invitation. Of course, as soon as you get close to Garumi, he realizes that Momo isn't Gegaruju, but the person he had been about to stab a few nights back. He has no problem admitting what he's done, and even when Musosai says that he's not going to try to bring Garumi in alive, the Lalafell doesn't flinch. He decides to turn the whole thing into a show for his party guests. So you all head onto the deck where he has a bodyguard with a katana who claims that all it takes to be a samurai is to use that weapon. Musosai wants to teach him the error of his ways, but first you have to deal with his hired ninja henchman. Musosai uses this as another training opportunity, and after you take down a few of his guards, Garumi sends his pet monster after you. So your master steps in and one-shots all the remaining shinobi while you deal with the monster. Then you get to take down the fake samurai while Muso comments on how bad the guy is at fighting. You cut him down and chase after Garumi. The man has heard of Musosai, and now that he knows who he is, he understands why his guards lost, but he stupidly thinks that he can fight you, and gets executed for his trouble. While he's glad you dealt with the murderer, Musosai isn't all that pleased with how weak your opponents were. Samurai need to fight people on their skill level to grow, and the frauds you dealt with won't do much for your growth. So it's off to somewhere else while Gegaruju cleans up the mess you made. This time you're headed to Gridania, although Momo's ego seems a bit reluctant to want to go there. When you reach the forest city, Momo wanders off, and when he doesn't come back, you and Muso look around for him only to find out that he had a criminal record in the city and was arrested as soon as they saw him. He hadn't done anything major, so they weren't all that focused on him, so he took the opportunity to run away. Last they saw him, he was headed toward Ixal territory in the North Shroud. The guards don't plan on chasing him out there, so if you want to find him before he gets dead, you'd better hurry. You save him from a few of the members of the Beast Tribe who were going to do some horrible things to him, and now that he's safe, he tells you what happened. He was organizing a concert, but the singer bailed on him at the last minute. He had a big debt to pay, and no way of paying it, so he ran away with the money he made on the advanced ticket sales. Now he's scared that Musosai will kill him too, which the man acts like he's gonna do. But since Momo has been working hard to do the right thing since that day, killing him would ruin all the good he could possibly do if he kept going the way he has been. But he does need to pay all the people back and apologize before you all leave Gridania, which he happily runs off to do. All of the travel seems to be getting to Musosai since he's far from a young man, but he feels good that he's managed to accomplish his goal of finding a strong student near the end of his life. Although he does have one more goal left to accomplish, and it's the true reason he was in Eorzea. He is trying to track down a disgraced samurai named Kogarashi. He is the embodiment of evil, and while Musosai had a chance to take him down before, he failed. Kogarashi was even stronger than he is. But none of that's your problem, and instead of saying more, the two of you go to track down Momo, who has paid his debts and is now free to come and go in Gridania as he pleases. With that done, your merry band of do-gooders heads off to Ishgard. Ishgard's another city with a lot of problems, and it doesn't take long for Momo to hear some unsettling news. Apparently a couple threw themselves off of a cliff in the western highlands. They were both lowborn, but a young nobleman named Enfreint wanted the girl, and he stalked her until the couple decided to end their lives since they would never know peace otherwise. While the man's deeds would be worthy of punishment, you can't go around stabbing folks on rumors, so the three of you split up to see if the rumors are actually true. The more you find out, the less it seems like the deaths were suicides at all, but as you and Musosai discuss what you found, you hear Momo screaming in the distance for help. When you get to where you heard the scream, and Ellison lets you know that Momo was asking about the suicides when someone grabbed him and carried him off. With no more time to waste being subtle, you and Musosai go to confront Enfreint directly. The nobleman admits that he tried to make the couple break up, but they didn't kill themselves. Enfreint had brought the girl to his family's manor, and she had found out about some of his father's illegal business ventures. He had tried to make his dad let it go, but he wouldn't. He had some men take the couple out to the highlands and get rid of them. It broke Enfreint's heart because he really did love the girl. If his father's men took Momo to the same place, then they're on their way to the Black Iron Bridge right now. You save Momo from the mercenaries, but the strain starts to take an even greater toll on Musosai. In typical stubborn old man fashion, he shrugs off your concerns. Now that he's visited all of Eorzea's major cities, he just has to find Kogarashi and deal with him. Watching you grow during your travels has made him think that you may have grown strong enough to fight Kogarashi if you find him, which makes Muso proud that the kami helped him find a student who could help him reach his goal. But before you continue the hunt, you all head back to Ishgard. Momo thinks something is wrong, and he gets a doctor to look at Muso only to find out that he's very, very sick. He probably won't live for that much longer. Honestly, he shouldn't have even been strong enough to draw his sword, let alone do all of the traveling and fighting he's done. It makes Momo wonder just what did this Kogarashi do to make Musosai go to such lengths to put an end to him. Now, if any of you have ever met an old person, you should know that even if a doctor tells them what they should do, they probably won't listen, and Musosai is no different. He's supposed to stay in bed, but he leaves. You search the city for him, but he actually finds you first. He brought his own medicine, stuff that gives him his strength back for at least a little while, and while he's on his feet, he finally lets you know everything about Kogarashi and his crimes. The man is responsible for training a serial killer who took down a lot of Hingan leaders, and the way things work in his homeland puts the blame for the deeds on both the student and the master. He was ordered to take his own life, but instead he ran away to Eorzea. Leaving him alive despite what he caused is something that tarnishes the name of the samurai, so he has to be taken down. But Musasai has failed to do it on multiple occasions, but he thinks you can do it. You can beat Kogarashi. So as your final test, Musasai wants you to find him and bring him down. The man's been staying in Kurthus at a place called the Twin Fools, and as you head there, Musasai wants you to think on how horrible a person has to be to put their own life above honor and duty. When you reach the location, Musasai reveals to you that he's Kogarashi. He had a student who he took around in the same way that he did with you. They fought criminals together, but in the end his apprentice turned bad and he ran away instead of taking his own life when he was ordered to. He's tried to, time and time again, but he just can't go through with it. Since he couldn't do it himself, he decided to train someone until they were strong enough to bring him to justice. The Warrior of Light, of course, doesn't want to do that, but Musasai draws his sword, giving you no choice but to fight him or die. Even as a sick old man, his skills are top notch, but with him having to fight off his own illness and you, he's beaten. Now all that's left is for you to give him an honorable death, but Momozigo rushes in, having followed the two of you. He's shocked to see what you've done to Musasai, but he lets him know that it wasn't your fault and he welcomes the death. But as a samurai, like Musasai had done for Momo and Gridanian, you use your authority to absolve him of his crimes, counting the deeds he's done to make up for them as a just penance. He's proud of the samurai you've become, and with that, he finally succumbs to his illness and passes on. The two of you take Musasai's body and bury him per his wishes, where he can face the western seas, so he could watch the sun head back to the east, to the homeland he knew that he would never see again. This concludes the first part of your journey as a samurai. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.